Somalia is a country in the northeast of Africa, in an area that is often referred to as the Horn of Africa. It borders the countries of Djibouti, Ethiopia, and Kenya. Its coastline runs along the Indian Ocean to the Gulf of Aden. Its capital city is Mogadishu. The country is classified as a desert or desert scrub. It has a very dry climate. Although it has very little rainfall, there are 2 rainy seasons. Average temperatures throughout the year are between 23 to 32 degrees. Its area is nearly twice that of Finland's. The people of Somalia have been traditionally pastoralists, agriculturalists, or agro-pastoralists. So these nomadic or semi-nomadic people herd goats, sheep, cattle, and camels. Though in recent times the country has seen people moving to urban areas where they take common city jobs such as merchants, store clerks, and civil servants. They are a patrilineal society that organizes itself by clans, so who they descend from and who they are related to is very important to them, especially when conflicts arise and they need to band together. There are 2 main clans that branch into several sub-clans. The 2 major clans are the Somali, who are in the majority, and the Sab. Somali society is mostly egalitarian and democratic. In the book, The Somalians, it states that, for all Somalis, the family is the ultimate source of personal security and identity. Historian Charles Geschefter notes, when Somalis meet each other, they don't ask, "Where are you from?" Rather, they ask, "Whom are you from?" To explain the clans, the nomads have this saying: "My full brother and I against my father's household against my uncle's household, our 2 households, my uncle's and mine, against the rest of the immediate kin against non-immediate members of my clan against other clans, and my nation and I against the world." Somalis are one of the most homogeneous ethnic and cultural groups in Africa, so they do not divide themselves into different tribes. Rather, they come from the same ancestors, and so distinguish themselves into different clans. The culture is androcentric, in that the males are seen as the head of the family, but women too are important with regard to labor, economic roles, and taking care of the home and family. The years of socialism allowed women to participate more in society. This meant that women had access to education, work, and travel, so Somali women have experienced more freedom than most other Muslim women. Households are usually comprised of the parents and the children. It is not uncommon for an elderly parent to live with their child's family. There is a strong inclination to rely on extended family as one social network. Somalis are Sunni Muslims. It is estimated that Somalis converted to Islam in the 11th or 12th centuries. Their religion is a very integral part of their identity. Somalis have an inclination towards Sufi mysticism. Additionally, there are some aspects of pre-Islamic traditional religions found in the folk spirituality. At this point, it becomes impossible to talk about Somalis without talking about them being Muslim. So now, to discuss their values and who they are, we must realize that all this is guided by the principles of Islam. Some say that the first mention of Somalia is made by the ancient Egyptians, who spoke of it as the land of Punt. The Palermo stone's hieroglyphics reveal that frankincense and myrrh, specialties of Punt, were purchased. The walls of the Dersi Bahari temple tell the tale of the 1493 BC expedition Queen Hatshepsut sent to purchase trees for her garden. The Greek book, The Periplus of the Erythraean Sea from current era 60, discusses the region and its people. 2 other notable travelers to this land were the Muslim adventurers Ibn Battuta and Zenghi. Ibn Battuta wrote about the size of Mogadishu from his 1325 voyage. Zheng He was sent to Africa by Kublai Khan, the Mongol ruler, in 1414. Zheng He came back to China with exotic beasts. After the 11th and 12th centuries, when Somalis had converted to Islam, they engaged in a war with Christian Ethiopia. The Portuguese were involved in the fighting and turned the tide in favor of the Ethiopians. However, it was noted that no matter how much they tried, the Portuguese were never able to conquer Mogadishu. British adventurer Sir Richard Burton explored Somalia in 1854, and this piqued interest in the country, especially after the Suez Canal was opened. In 1887, the British took a chunk of the north and called it British Somaliland. The French snatched the territory known as Djibouti and dubbed it French Somaliland. Not to be left out, the Italians staked a claim on the southern region. They left an imprint on the city of Mogadishu with their architecture. This has largely been destroyed in subsequent battles. A decade later, the Somalis had had enough. In 1899, Muhammad Abdullah Hassan gathered an opposition force and fought the colonial powers for 20 years. When he died, so did the resistance movement. However, World War II was on the horizon, and this meant skirmishes between the occupying forces. Italy and Britain waged war on each other for control of Somalia. In the end, the United Nations stepped in and gave southern Somalia to Italy for a 10-year period. After the 10 years, British Somaliland and Italian Somaliland were given independence, and they became one Somali republic on the 1st of July 1960. This lasted for 9 years, when after struggling for unification, the military staged a coup d'etat. They formed the Supreme Revolutionary Council, and Major General Muhammad Ziad Barre became president. His regime lasted until 1990, when he was forced to flee Somalia. In the beginning, the so-called Somali Democratic Republic was based on the principles of Marxism and the Quran. However, the country was put through another war with Ethiopia, and when Somalia was defeated, the country went through an economic decline. Towards the end of his time in office, people were disgruntled with the way he was running the country, his misuse of power, and the way he had been setting his Red Berets, who were his clan members, against other clans. When he was finally ousted from office, it became another struggle between two men. This led to a civil war. Between the years 1991 and 1993, hundreds of thousands of Somalis died from war and hunger. This is the period which led to the major diaspora of Somalis from Africa to places like Canada, the United States, Finland, Australia, and elsewhere. Finally, while the United Nations tried to broker a truce between the two factions, in 1992, the United States launched Operation Restore Hope. Food and supplies were taken into the country to ensure that it got to the people instead of being intercepted. This turned into a disaster, and the U.S. pulled out in 1994, with the UN following in 1995. During the rest of the decade, fighting continued. No central government was ever able to form. Instead, parts have broken off to form separate governments, such as the Somaliland Republic and Puntland.